Sechet Avodah Zarah Daf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. 4 lines from the bottom by the Mishnah. Misha Yabetu Samuch Na'avut Chavim Nafal. Someone had a house that had like a shared wall, semi-attached wall with it. Avodah Zarah worship house, and that wall collapsed. Asudum Nato, you can't rebuild it because you're building for the Avodah Zarah. Kesli Ya'aseh, what do you do? Kones B'toch Shelo Arba Amot U'buneh. You withdraw 4 amot into your own property. So if the wall was smack in the middle between the two rooms, you would withdraw 4 amot into your own property, and that's where you build it shalom. Vishal Abdul say the wall belonged half to you and half to the Avodah Zarah property. Nidun mahsa mahsa, you split it in half, and therefore, if the wall was 10 feet thick, 3 feet thick rather, you start your 4 amot 1.5 feet in. Okay. I said the stones, the wood, and the earth from that fallen wall transmits tum'ah like a shed. It's like a creepy crawler. Shneimar, like the pasuk says, shakayitz shakasene. Re'akil Amar says kenida, it transmits tum'ah like a nida, a higher level. Shneimar, tizram kimun b'davar tzene tamardo. Many of them mitamad, such like a nida gives over tum'ah by carrying something. Af avodat chavim mitmed b'sasudu avodah zarah transmits tum'ah by carrying or being carried. Because that kind of one second. If you're withdrawing your wall 4 amot into your property, yeah, you're gonna be farther away, and yeah, you're not building it for them, but you're technically giving them more property to do on those. Where it says, "Amar Rabbi Hanan Masud Abid Le Betek," he said, you can make it a bathroom, that open area. Where it says, "Va'aba Ayitzinuta." 1 second, you have to relieve yourself in modestly. How would you do that in front of an open area? To the Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says, David la betek, he said, Lela, you make it into a night one, and therefore no one sees you. The Gemara says, Aha, Amar Mor, we know Breta, Ezu Sanua who's considered modest, and if never b'makom shenefe b'yom, person who defecates at nighttime, the same place where he goes daytime, meaning, Afagav de'okin b'kidei even though we explained this, that it refers to the way you do it, not the location. Mi'ut by the way, but it means that you have to be modest. The same way you're modest during the daytime because you're afraid people will see you. It includes people who are modest to show that you're truly modest is if you are modest even at nighttime. The Gemara says, so then how he explains the case, the Gemara says, no, the Afil lid, let you go, yeah, you can make it for a bathroom for young children who are never modest. In that way, or maybe you could put not an official wall after your wall. So you make your wall 4 amot in, use that place as a bathroom, and you put a small temporary covering with like bushes or pieces of wood. Okay. Next Mishnah. Shlosha batim hen, the 3 types of Avodah Zarah houses. Bayit shenever coming into the house was built initially from the beginning for Avodah Zarah usage. How does it asur? It's always asur. Let's say the house was built not for Avodah Zarah, and then you plaster it again for the Avodah Zarah by adding that plaster for it. No tell you can remove that extra plaster, and the house is now mutar. Someone brought Avodah Zarah into the house after it's built, and then you take out Avodah Zarah, how does it mutar? The house is mutar. Gemara. Amarav. Amishtahavet lebayit, someone bows down to his house, Asura makes it Asur. The Gemara says, Allah for Safar Tlush Ubasof Heboro Kashdami. Seemingly, from the fact that it says Asur, it means even if something was detached and then considered attached and then re-detached, it's considered detached. In short, if a house that's built will be considered part of the ground, bowing down to it would not make it a sword, just like a mountain's not a sword. Must be if it's detached, rebuilt, considered attached, it's still considered detached because otherwise the house is mutar, like a mountain. The Gemara says, "V'anan ba'anot time." It's an Mishnah says that a house that's a sword, a house that's built for Avodah Zarah is considered a sword. The Gemara says, no, but now we're making a good variable. There's 2 different ways of looking at it. If you built a house from Avodah Asur automatically, even if you did not worship it. And also, if you bow down to it, even though you didn't build it from Avodah it's also Asur. 2 ways of making it Asur. Where's the Yachi Hanish Lashab? What does that mean? Say we only said 3 categories on Mishnah. Now we're adding a fourth. The Gemara says no. Kevin the tools. We're talking about regarding to nullifying this Isur. Bana vejdahava hadka hashivu. So yes, even though we said building it for bowing down, and it doesn't have to bow down yet necessarily. That is the same thing as bowing down, even if you didn't build it for the right intention, for the same intention, and therefore it's swallowed. It's a 2 part isur. Okay. Shalosh avanim here, there's three types of Avodah Zarah stones. Evan shehasabha metila limusa, a stone that was cut out specifically for Avodah Zarah usage. Areza Asrat Asur. Sitav Yechidad Shavadachim. You plastered or plated the stone after it was cut for Atazra. Nutem Mashesiyad Vechir Mutar. You can remove that plaster and then it's mutar. I immediately I would have Misilka. Let's say you put a Atazra on top of a stone and you take off the Atazra, that is a mutar, it's mutar immediately. Marbami, Beushesiyad Vechir Vekufasha Evan. That only applies where he plastered and decorated into the stone itself. He cut engraved images into it. Sounds like if it was all external and you just put plaster on the outside and wrapped it, it would not apply. The one to buy Tanam, second our Mishnah seemingly is saying this case, the same case as like the house, like the previous Mishnah. Ubayit lav b'gufeh. We said that the decorations and the engravings wasn't done on the actual house, it was done on the plaster, and even so, that's what. Umar says no. Yes, it could become a case in the house where they put it into the plaster into the bricks and the walls. Umar says Milo Askinen, the Shiar, Badar Shayat. 1 second, no, the case of the house is talking about a case where you had it plastered and they replastered it with those all images and stuff. That's not talking about a case. It's talking about a case of external, not engraved into the actual house. The Gemara says, okay, Elaki itmar de Rabbi Amel inyan bitul itmar. Really, when we're mentioning Rabbi Ami's halacha, tomat nullification. And what is it talking about? Even if you plastered or engraved it into direct into the stone, even if you remove that, it's okay. Because you would have thought that since you engraved it into the actual stone, then it might be considered like a stone that was cut out from the mountain from Avodah initially. And therefore it should be completely asur. Kashlan therefore teaches you even in this case it is mutar. Okay. Shalosh ashirot, and there are three types of Avodah Zarah tree. Ashiraz. Ilan shmeta'al metchila she'en havim. A tree is planted for with intention for Avodah Zarah. How does that asur? It's always asur. The guy pruned it or trimmed it and made it beautiful for Avodah Zarah, even though it wasn't planted for it. And then it grows afterward. You could remove whatever was grown afterward. That's for Avodah Zarah. And then it's mutar. So you put an Avodah Zarah underneath the tree and then took it away. How does it mutar? It's mutar. Or I said, so the second case, where we're not allowed to use the new stuff, he said that applies where he grafted into a new tree. That's why it's asur. The Gemara says, our Mishnah specifically mentioned where you trimmed it or pruned it. That's a minor change, not like a major change of making a whole new tree. Gemara says, okay, fine. You know what? Similar format. You might even if someone made a new tree, new branch through the tree, or grafted a whole new tree with the branch, which is a major change. Even if you remove whatever grew extra, it works. What I thought, you would have thought that since you layered a new branch or grafted a new tree completely, you might think that may not be considered a new tree completely made for Avodah Zarah. Therefore teaching you is mutar if you cut off the new stuff. Amar Shmuel, when someone bows down to a tree, anything that grows afterwards asur. Rabbi Elazar. Someone pruned the tree for usage for Tazra, then it grows and you can just remove the extra stuff and mutar. Sounds like only if you pruned it, you took off the extra stuff. If you didn't take it off, it's not a sore. Shmuel says it's always a sore sounds like even if you didn't trim it or stuff. The Gemara says, no, Shmuel will tell you how many, who's this according to our Mishnah that says it's mutar if you, the new stuff. The banana needs according to the banana, Hachamim hold that a tree that's planted without intentions for Azra, and then its worship is mutar. Shmuel Amar, Damar Kirbiyas Levidan, and Shmuel holds like Kirbiyas Levidan. Damar Ilan Shin Obasaf Avra Asur. He says that a tree that's planted without intention for Azra, and then its worship afterward is Asur. Muslim Tifan about Shir, hold up, wait a second. Why would you say Yosef and Yehuda and Rabban Chachamim disagree regarding the stuff that grew after it was worshipped? Maybe everybody agrees that whatever grows afterward is asur. What we could openly the machloket is the initial part of the tree, the beginning, the part that was there before it was worshipped. The rest of Yehuda, Safar Ikura Nami Asur Yehuda holds that the original also Asur. The Tiva so says Vashalim Tisru Ba'esh, burn it. Sounds like the whole tree. Rabbanan Savre Ikari Lan Sharet. Rabbanan has no, the beginning of the tree is Mutar. The Tiva so says Vashalim Tikadeun, you shall cut it down. Seemingly you cut down extra stuff. Ezu Ilan Shedu, so what type of Ikura Shari, what type of tree would be allowed to cut partial and keep the rest? However, Ilan Shnet to all of us, he said that this case exactly where it was planted without Avodah Zarah intentions, then worshipped, you trim the extras, and it's mutar. The Gemara says, "Va'atchitema halo matartzinun hachi." We didn't say earlier Rabbi Yossi would hold like that. Uh, that the initial part also asur, right? We said that Rabbi Yossi holds that the tree teaches you that the beginning of the tree, the initial part of the tree is mutar. The Gemara says, "Epoch Rabbanan Rabbi Yossi If you want, we could just switch the opinions. Who said which? Maybe Hachamim say what Rabbi Yehuda says, and we switch that. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbanan, maybe the Rabbanan, Rabbi Yehuda will be switched to Hachamim. Right? So Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda would hold that the tree is mutar. Hachamim will answer. In as the case, the opus law man tenene. According to Mishnah, it says if you trim the tree, then whatever goes afterward, that's or who would be according to? Lo Rabbanan, below Ketuvizirun, according to either. Either Hamim below Gidul Pislanami to Salat Surah, because you would Hamim in this scenario would hold it, even if you didn't trim it, it's Muzar. Either be a Sivida, is going to be a Sivida, Ikar Lanami Asur, even the main part of the tree, so forget about that, what grows afterward. So how do you explain our Mishnah? Who's according to? The Gemara says, Iba Imar Rabbanan, Iba Imar Rabbi Sivida. We can actually answer that it could fit according to both. Ooh. Iba Imar Rabbi Sivida could answer according to Rabbi Yehuda even though Yehuda holds that the main part of the tree is still Asur. However, Kikamar Yehuda belonged to Opus Laba Ikai than Asur. Which case did he say that the tree is Asur even if he didn't trim it? Bistana where the guy just bowed down to it without saying what he's bowing down to it. But in the case where the guy trimmed the tree and pruned it, he's showing that what's he worshipping? The stuff that goes afterward. He doesn't care about the main part of the tree. That's why in that case, even with har. That's how we're best with our Mishnah. Even the Rabbanan, we give answer even with Hamim. Even the Rabbanan hold that the additional part is Asur, even if it was not trimmed. Like we mentioned this case as well. Because you would have thought, given the Avad Lemasa go fast, since he did something to the tree itself. You would have thought that maybe the actual tree should become Asur as well. Kamashman therefore teaches you that only the extra is Asur and the main part is Mutar according to Chachmi.